Hi, Sachin.
Hey, Dinkar.
So, how are things? I wanted to mention that EEBO.org, our EEBO Metrics LinkedIn page, and our conversations around EEBO Metrics is really great, gaining traction. And the topic of maturity, how an organization goes from just get us the tool to I want this metric to, now that we have the metrics, what's the, what do we derive out of it? What's the narrative? To finally realizing that, everything has to be correlated to a business outcome. So this maturity, a lot of people, organizations which are at different levels are pinging us and asking us how to think about it. So I'm happy about as a product manager, I'll also think about the brand or the label of EEBO sticking and becoming a placeholder label for a much larger conversation. That's a good sign. And people are coming and asking us questions. Obviously, we don't have all the answers every time, but what we have is hearing to so many people and learning from the experience and abstracting and sharing it back. So it's going well.
Dinkar, the one thought which came to my mind, I am seeing EEBO LinkedIn account is also posting a lot of things thanks to you. And we are seeing that people are talking about it. My immediate reaction to that was, today, if you think about enterprise software, enterprise systems, the biggest problem we used to struggle earlier is a lot of projects didn't used to go to completion because of variety of problems, whether it is people are lacking certain clarity or tooling was not mature, or even in that sense, the requirements were very emergent. But in the last 5 to 7 years, I am seeing that there is a maturity in how solutions needs to be built compared to 12 years ago. 12 to 15 years ago, when I used to code, the web application itself was not standardized. Today, if you think about a web application, it's a standardized thing. There are certain things. You name certain regularly used applications, and now you don't need to think how the experience will be. Example is Amazon. Go to any e-commerce, it will be similar to Amazon. The feature set will be very standard. Go to travel booking site, the feature set will be standard. But at that time, ClearTrip or Expedia or Orbitz, these will be having a different take on how people should book flights or how they should book vacations. In the same way, if you think about any other net banking, like how people should do digital banking, now there are maturity scales available into like digital banking. Can you withdraw money? Can you transfer money? Can you check the balance on your mobile? That is how the maturity score is defined, by the way. These functions. So each function has a corresponding maturity score. So today, the problem is not how the software will be built. Because the standardization, also the frameworks are mature. Example, today nobody struggles for a messaging system. Today, nobody struggles for deploying it into cloud for 1 million users. They do, but good teams don't struggle. There is a known path to all of this. What people are realizing is when these all unknown technical problems, right, are becoming now known, okay, it needs to be solved, but it is known. Earlier, it was unknown. Then people realized how it should be done, but they did not know how technology. So known, unknown. And today, we are moving all the technology aspects for mundane applications into known category. Unless you are trying to go out and create some innovative thing, which did not exist. Example would be is augmented reality. That is not yet standardized. People are still trying to form their opinion how the interface should be. So it is 5 years away from today's maturity scale.
And Sachin, just on that note, the most common comment that I saw after Apple's demo was oh, they are going to standardize things. They're going to say out, this is what design
Exactly.
looks like. They are going to say,
exactly,
this is how the flow will look like. So everyone was not excited as expected about Apple coming up with something
right.
new, but about how they are establishing an ecosystem, establishing what good looks like throughout.
Exactly. And that's what my point is. If a lot of these things become known, then Dinkar, the focus goes on. It's what am I getting out of it? So today, more than ever, 20 years ago as well, yes, businesses always cared about value. Businesses always cared about revenue, success, profitability, all those attributes. Nothing changed for last 100 years there. But systems which they are building for next generation experience, those or business applications which are internal facing or outward facing, those applications were still into unknown category. And when that happens, people did not care too much about how do I measure. Now it is very critical. So EEBO metrics is extremely relevant today in the context of how you should look at your value, how should you decide priorities, how should you measure your teams. So these tools are not yet exactly mature. That landscape is still evolving, but now this landscape has a foundation which took 15 years to build.
Right.
So I'm super excited that EEBO metrics and EEBO related all these thought leadership, which is actually coming out and people are talking about it. It is not because of they are just attracted to it as a new thing, but this was old, but now it is possible. There is a path for making it real. So, and I think I'm losing in the excitement, Dinkar, that news, but I know that you are cooking something up in the EEBO world. So what's coming our way?
Sure. I was thinking of editing out all the mentions of EEBOCon, but that's it. Right. So Sachin, what I noticed was that when we are going and talking to various organizations, I most of the time, and you and bunch of us, we end up talking to another technologist. Maybe that person is post-technical. They have now become, head of engineering and head of this and head of that, but they're post-technical. It's we talking to each other, right? And one of the struggles is that we have defined excellence in engineering. We have defined excellence in deployment. We have excellence in, business. But that arrow that we have in our EEBO diagram, right? That correlation, that this is my engineering excellence, and this is how it correlates to business outcome. And if this correlation is working out, if there is a correlation, we are successful, right? All our hard work, struggles in improving our effectiveness and achieving high scales of excellence is bearing business fruit, right? So what usually happens is, the product managers or someone will represent the business. They'll tell what the metrics, and this is the kind of workshop I've done bunch of times with the organization, is where I sit with the product manager and say, okay, what are the metrics they're figuring out? OKRs are very common, but I have maybe some other day we'll talk about how OKRs are kind of good for a direction, but they're kind of narrowing the scope of thought. They're narrowing how broad a product manager should be thinking. They're kind of converting a product manager into just, that part which deals with the development part, and kind of makes only that part, brings a lot of focus to that part. However, having said that, right, so the whole discussion becomes that, okay, this is how the business will measure the outcome. And this exercise, interestingly, is non-trivial, right? Because suddenly we say that, okay, these are the metrics for your product. As a product manager, you have decided, but have you thought about someone who's going to start using your product, the operations people, the end customer? How will you measure their success? How will you measure, all the operational cost? How will you recover? Bunch of these questions when you start asking, turns out that this correlation needs a lot of work. And what I realized was that I have been attending a lot of conferences around agile, around value, around software development, around product management, right? A lot of these conversations is again us talking to each other and saying that, hey, this is what business wants. This is what business wants to hear. So I thought maybe it's high time that folks like us sit in the audience seat and listen. And let's invite some business heads. Let's invite some people who um, are signing these checks, who are kickstarting these initiatives, and ask them that when you kickstart a transformation, when you kickstart building up a whole new product ecosystem, when you kickstart building off a whole new revenue stream, how is it you are measuring these outcomes? So you can report it either to the board, or you can report it to founders or these kind of personas, right? So what we're trying to do with EEBOCon is kind of bring all the business leaders who will share their opinion with all the IT leaders on how they see and measure the success of an IT initiative, what they would like to see happen, how they prioritize things, and let's see how that goes. That's the whole basis for the EEBOCon. I think most probably it'll end up to be a virtual meet. As a product manager, I don't want to spend with too much. I don't want to start with too much of spend. Maybe do some iterations virtually, which all said and done reduces the cost, but also increases the possibility of people attending. I'm trying to reach out to some folks who are not in India time zone or India time zone friendly. So maybe they'll record their talk, or maybe it's convenient for them to get up early or stay late and talk virtually. I mean, virtual conferences really increase the possibility of people who can come and participate. The plan is somewhere around July, but it will depend a lot on availability of folks. And what I'm also trying to do is see some interesting ways of encouraging networking in this conference. So let's see.
Absolutely. And I think this is a great step to spread the awareness. And I'm so glad that you are, and even we were talking when we were thinking about all these metrics, and we came up with initial draft and even evolving the philosophy of it. We never thought we should create a structure around it which is extremely rigid. We wanted people to think in terms of real problem, what they face, and real solutions, what they should seek, in a framework which is philosophical.
Right.
And as this evolves, I think the structure will emerge in some shape or form, which people will be able to adhere. But these type of events are extremely good because these bring all this philosophy into the realm of real people talking about real problems and how they are facing it today. So it becomes very important for the rest of the audience to come and look at these EEBOCon, hear from people who are not talking in echo chamber,
exactly,
but in the wild. And then when they are talking about all of this, they can make their own opinions about this and influence the direction of this community further. So I am extremely excited. This is the right step to do. And I'm very happy to be part of all of this.
Yeah.
So Dinkar.
Yeah. So Sachin, sorry, I'll take a second. So when you were talking about, hey, we were thinking of the, not making it too rigid, thinking of the framework. I want to share with the people who are listening, one of those early days dilemma that we had was, what should we go and talk about first, the framework or the tool? And the way we went about resolving it at that time was, let's say we go and talk about the framework, right? Then the biggest problem in making things real, in adopting something and, making it tangible, making it really beneficial and not be yet another framework is how people can quickly adopt it. And then we decided that, okay, before we talk about the framework, maybe we should lead with a tool. And when we thought of leading with the tool, we looked at various, already existing tools. People can use Hygia, there is Tableau, there's so many options, right? Then we realized was that all of these open up so many possibilities. They offer so much. The real fear of distraction really bothered us. We already have talked about when it comes to metric, it can go very crazy. Everyone comes in, hey, can you measure this? Just one more. I think this will reflect my team best. I think this will reflect how our team is stuck on that team. And then suddenly, the deluge of metrics happens. So we wanted to lead with an opinion on how even the dashboard should look like. What are those metrics? And before you think of those metrics, how are you thinking about the success criteria, the failure thresholds, how you're thinking of remediation? And I think that's where ThoughtWorks Polaris came into being. And we decided that we will lead with a tool. And once we have something tangible in front of people, which they are using, then we'll start introducing the framework.
And that was right thing to do, Dinkar. Even after 18 months of doing Polaris, I still believe tool shouldn't have fed how we should think about EEBO metrics.
Right.
And even if I have to do it one more time, I think I will put philosophy before the tools, because tools are nothing but means to an end. They will evolve. Tomorrow, we may come up with a Polaris approach, which will be entirely different than Polaris 1.0. Because let's say market conditions change or the technology stack change. So, and we are seeing EEBO does not need only tool. It also requires a lot of other aspects which completely are non-related to a tool. And we have talked about this on these podcasts. One was intent, how you are actually thinking about it. And that requires your organizational mindset to change. It requires your team to behave in a certain way. That's a cultural change. And it also requires certain organizational boundaries. We talked about difficulties in getting access to this data, whereas it should be completely easy to flow around the team if it is relevant to them. If they are making an impact on some metrics, which somebody else is monitoring, it should be available throughout the organization. And these changes are not related to any tool. Tableau will face the same. Azure DevOps dashboards will face the same, and Hygia will face the same. Polaris is facing that too. But what I'm alluding to is these events, what you talked about, are also great in spreading awareness, which goes beyond just tool, which goes beyond thinking about, hey, I need to put these 5 metrics and I will solve all my problems. Those type of quick wins, which everybody is used to thinking. And I am not even talking about it, but Dinkar, Gen AI, all the tooling, all the more software getting built. If all these things are not put in perspective, I am sure some enterprises are going to struggle massively on the front of what should be done, what are the priorities, how they should exploit this additional capacity which is available within their organization. So this is a great move. It's a timely move. And I believe people should participate more into this. I would like to hear from people on a neutral forum rather than a business conversation setting. Right. So I'm super excited about this.
Yes, you're right. And that's why I think, tools and tooling are not part of EEBOCon. It's all about, what business is thinking about, all the things that you talked about, right? I just want to clarify one thing. What Sachin referred to was us thinking framework led, but what I was talking about, us going to market tool led. So, just in case
differentiation
confusing for someone. Yeah. So I'm very excited about EEBOCon, and, we'll start sharing more things about it. Got some very interesting folks lined up, and I'm also anticipating some very interesting audience summations because we have some very interesting people in audience also, right? So this is going to be very interesting. If it pans out the way I'm imagining, right, we would have the speakers and panelists would be business executives, and their audience would be actually tech executives. So let's see how those conversations go. And for people like us, and all product managers, developers, QAs, and all that, watching this dynamics would be very interesting. Let's see how that goes. Thanks, Sachin, and I'll see you next time.
Absolutely, super excited, and let's keep coming all those EEBOCon announcements onto the LinkedIn. Yeah. Before I drop, if you would have edited all EEBOCon, it would have looked like I'm swearing in the context of EEBO. so my request is, all my slip-ups of EEBOCon in early conversation, do not edit or blip them out. Otherwise, it will feel like I'm swearing on that.
We'll see. Watch the video when it releases, or on your Apple podcast when it releases. Now there's a suspense for you.
Absolutely.
Take care, Sachin.
Bye bye.